Okay, so we were talking before I hit record that it's been a decade
A decade.
since you and I were on the verge of being colleagues at Fish and Richardson. How can that possibly be?
I can't believe it. Time flies.
What's happened in the meantime?
Yeah, so I started my career not knowing what legal marketing even was. But then, as you said, we became colleagues at Fish and Richardson, where I was a marketing assistant. And then I took the giant leap of moving down to Florida
Wow.
in 2018 and started at the firm of Carlton Fields as a communications and events coordinator, and then moved up to specialist level. And now I am the firm's marketing and events manager. So I've really niched down to events.
That's really good. And were you on events when you were at Fish? What
You
was your role
know,
there?
I think I helped out a little bit, but it was mostly administrative, not so
Oh,
much the management and execution, but more
yeah.
administrative. I think it became apparent as I kind of continued down my legal marketing journey that I had a knack for events. I had,
Mhm.
the broad picture, but then also the detail oriented mindset to be able to manage events. So that's where I landed, and I'm
Yeah.
happy with it so far.
So what's the key in your mind to a successful event? I mean, I'm glad that events are still a thing. I think
Yes.
it's so important that we are connecting, face to face, person to person in groups. Like that's where the magic should be happening. So what's the
Yes.
key in your experience?
Well, luckily, I did when I moved to this law firm, Carlton Fields. The former chief marketing officer really had embedded in this firm in a way that I hadn't seen before or had heard about at other firms that events were a crucial part of the business development strategy. And so that's been something that I was lucky to learn from, and now I'm hoping to take forward. And like you said, events are critical, but they've changed a lot,
Mm.
especially after the pandemic. We law firms are a relationship business, and events are arguably one of the best ways to build relationships.
Right.
Every other element, communications and pitches and proposals has their place, but what's better than an event as a tactic to use to build relationships? And so I think the best events these days have to be intentional. They have to show care. They have to be really unique, something that a person wouldn't do on their own. So for example, we used to be able to host, what we call boondoggles or something similar in our law firm lobbies, right?
Right.
Have some beer and wine and some cheese and crackers and call it a day. And that was good enough. That worked. But people are so much more protective of their personal time after the pandemic.
Sure.
And it makes sense. We have hybrid schedules. People got used to being at home, got used to being involved in their activities with their kids and families. So we really have to do something that is special to be able to draw them out and say, yes, this invitation sounds like something I would want to go to. This invitation sounds like this event was meant for me, and I really want to be there.
Mhm.
So I think it has to have those elements of, showing care, being intentional, and then, making sure that it's something that you might not be able to do on your own if you're just a random layperson on the street. It has to be, a behind the scenes tour or, an exclusive tasting or something similar to that where it's special. Everybody wants to feel special these days.
And what's the relationship between you and your team strategizing on what's going to make it special and
Right.
what the lawyers are bringing to the conversation with the knowledge that they
Right.
have of the folks that they want to invite? How do you
Right.
manage those conversations?
It does definitely have to be collaborative, and I will say I think there's a lot of education that has to go into it ahead of time, because attorneys sometimes do feel like, "Hey, we could just, invite them to our office and have some beer and wine and some cheese and crackers." That mindset is hard to shift, especially for attorneys that have been practicing a long time where that used to work. So it does have to be a little bit of education, building blocks first and describing the differences that we've seen on our side and why it needs to be different now. But then it's really working with the attorney and saying, okay, what do you know about your clients or
Mhm.
prospective clients or the occasion or the city or whatever it might be? And then how do I bring my knowledge in events in the industry to bear and kind of melding those two. But then, of course, like you said, we have to talk to our business development team too, because they have some skills and some knowledge that I don't even have. And, they come and bring their experience to bear as well. So it really does have to be kind of collaborative. And I will say, I don't think it's perfect by any means. I think there's still a lot that we could do at my firm and probably in the industry as a whole to kind of bring those two together, or those three really, the attorney,
Mhm.
business development, and events. But it does have to be kind of a collaboration between the three.
Well, and I mean, what you're talking about happening at your firm is encouraging because you're not just going with the
Right.
reflex,
Right.
that we
Right.
like those of us that have been in it, you for 10 years and
Right.
me for more than 10 years. Um, we can't just go with what's worked in the past because everything is changing,
Changing.
so much. And I think that changing in a way that really plays into the hands
Yes.
of folks that are concerned about their time, that are trying to maximize their
Right.
family time and minimize their commute time and all of the things that go into it. Well, so are the clients. so
Right.
are the so are the
Right.
people that you're trying to connect with.
Yes.
And so getting creative with those kinds of ideas, I think is
Yes.
really, I mean, that's just going to be the secret sauce going
Yeah.
forward. It just has to continue that way.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to remind the attorneys, times have changed. And just like you, as the attorney, want to maximize your time and make sure that you're getting the most out of the event and this relationship building process as much as possible. So does the client or the prospective client. It has to be something that we meet in the middle and we make the best, for both parties. Mhm.
Right. And I think that it's better for the lawyers
Right.
in another way as well, because they sometimes, like in my experience, I don't work inside law firms anymore, but I spent 25 plus years, inside and through a lot of events and hosted a lot of
Right.
major things and also filled tables at sponsorship dinners and things like that. And a lot of times, the lawyer's just like, oh God, do I have to go do that again? But
Exactly.
if it's something that is gonna, it fill them with energy, that is
Right.
gonna that and something that their clients and prospective clients want to do, then it's
Right.
gonna fuel their energy to participate in it all that much more. And like you and I were talking before we hit record, like sometimes these attorneys don't even want to send an invite to somebody because they think that that
Yes.
person is too busy. Well, if they're excited about the
Exactly.
event and the potential for connecting with them on a deeper level, giving them something that is gonna be rewarding for them and not
Right.
feel like a time burden, they're gonna show up more. These are gonna become better. So you do have to kind of build that momentum,
Right. I think
you know.
that's the best part of events too, is that it only takes one really good one and you're there, the attorney is visually, emotionally, mentally processing all of it and then they can see the difference afterwards. Okay, yeah, that was different than just going to lunch. That was something special, that was something unique. It's nice with events that you can immediately see or the attorney can immediately feel the difference after one good, really unique event.
Are
Where they
are
might
the
not normally for
oh,
alerts or pitches and proposals.
right, exactly. There are a lot of ways that the message gets out and the
Right.
and the firm gets in front of them, and all of that stuff is important. But right, a really well curated event is going to have a lot of bang for the buck. It sounds like it was sort of baked in the DNA from leadership at
Right.
your firm that events are the way to go. Is it a mix of sort of more entertainment focused events versus content versus educational events? Are you doing both of those types of
Good
events?
question. We do have both. Yeah, we have a mixture. This firm has a really robust continuing legal education or CLE and CE program for adjusters. Something that I haven't necessarily seen before at other firms where we do a lot of in person or virtual during the pandemic CLE and CE trainings to our clients where we're going in, we're buying lunch, we're preparing all of the CLE and CE credit. We do have, certain firm hosted seminars outside of that, or, kind of forums is what we technically call them. But then we also have, like you said, the more social events, the ones that are kind of meant to be more networking and more getting to know each other, maybe on a personal level. There's not as much thought leadership content involved. We have entertainment too. So we have concerts, we have suites, it's, specific sporting events.
Mhm.
So it really is a mesh. And like you said, we always have, I think no law firm will get away from sponsored tables, right? At
Right.
at
Right.
different industry events. And sometimes those are great and sometimes they're not so great, but it is really kind of keeping that mix, a variety of different events because different people like different things, both the attorneys and our clients and prospective clients. So it's kind of keeping in mind and really tailoring it, to that client or that group of clients, and the attorney that's working with them. What's best? Do you feel like, you just met this contact? Okay, maybe an invitation to our thought leadership summit might be best versus spending 4 hours with them in a suite when you don't know them.
Right.
So getting our attorneys to think about, all invitations are not created equal, all events are not created equal, and we really have to figure out what's best for that specific scenario and that specific client.
Well, and I like the idea what you said there too. There is a pace to these things,
Right.
right? You don't
Right.
want to just throw some new person into the deep end of the pool. Like,
Right.
yeah, inviting them, giving them something, being generous,
Yeah,
not just with an event overall, but like, we know you need to get your CE credits in.
exactly.
Here we've got these opportunities coming up. I just wanted to make sure you knew about them. That's a great thing to send across, and then you spend time talking to them at that. And hey, we've got this other kind of event. Do you like sports? That's
Right.
the time. That's the time to find out. We've got seats at this, or
Exactly.
did you like music or whatever? Like, it's not all. I just said these words on the episode that came out this week, the two-parter episode that came out this week. It's like not everybody is a golf and cocktails person.
Yes.
And so yeah, you need to pace it out like you're talking about, so that you have an opportunity to build a relationship, find out
Right.
what's important to that person, and then be open and,
Right.
and responsive, ready to.
Yeah, and I think
That's
we in
great.
marketing know that, the client journey is kind of a continuum, but I think it's educating the attorneys that, like we said, not everything is created equal, not everybody likes everything, so you really got to tailor and figure out. And hopefully, you should know that person well enough to be able to tease that out. And if you don't, then
Right.
use that as an opportunity to tease it out. Um,
Right.
but it really is a kind of continuum, and our someone you met yesterday might not be coming to our forum where we're inviting our top clients, and then somebody that's our top client might not be coming to prospective client mix and mingle.
Right.
So we have to kind of figure out which is the best journey, or which is the best stepping point in this journey for them to take right now.
At a former firm of mine, we experimented with an event that was set up just for the associates, because
Um,
they were in a unique situation. Well, not super unique situation, but they were in a situation where most of their contacts were lawyers at the same level, but at
mhm,
competitor firms. And so
right.
competitor firms wouldn't necessarily be invited, to the event. I mean, ultimately they're going to be referral sources, but it's not happening right now. So we created an event for them where they could invite, their sort of peers at other firms. Do you have strata where there are things that are great for associates versus more seasoned partners?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's funny you
That are-
say that. So we kind of approach it two different ways. There's some events where we encourage we call them shareholders. That's our
Mhm.
partner level attorneys. We encourage them to have an associate with them to kind of, have the shareholder show the
Right.
associate. This is how you network. This is how you
Mhm.
greet people. We're always going
Love
to
it.
have a drink in our left hand. We're not going to stay in the corner of the room. This is how to open a conversation. This is how to close a conversation and graciously move on. So kind of learning by doing in that aspect. But then we also have some events, like you said, where, we'll specifically do it for, and actually it's mainly sporting events in one of our suites, where we say, hey, this is a low stakes casual opportunity where you can invite, clients and contacts, and we recognize that you might not normally get this opportunity, but it's going to be an informal setting. You're not going to have to, be on the panel or presenting a program. You're just going to be socializing at a game, and there's something happening, so you can all watch that, but you can also be, mixing and mingling over food and beverages. People can come and go. So we kind of, frame it as this is a low stakes informal opportunity for you to kind of practice those networking skills that we're hopefully trying to teach you, or that other shareholders have been trying to teach you. Because you're right, they don't they don't learn that. They graduate and they have all these contacts that very well might be, very beneficial in the future, from law school, from other law firms.
Yep.
And you never know where that's going to go. But if we don't give them those building blocks in the beginning, then how is it ever supposed to, progress further than that?
Right. And providing an example or an opportunity for them
Right.
to fail,
Right. Right.
not catastrophically, but like
Yes.
to try. Oh, I guess that opening line really didn't land. That it didn't. Maybe I won't.
Right.
Maybe I won't try that again. But to give them opportunities to practice, like you said, is just so
Yes.
invaluable.
I think especially
Because
after the pandemic too.
oh man, yeah, things changed really
Right.
dramatically. Like we all got out of practice, and
Right.
I think even now it doesn't feel the same as it used to.
Yeah.
It's different and it's fine,
Agreed.
but it's like everybody had to make a change
Right.
in how they talked and how they approached it, and you and I were talking too about just like everyone's time is precious,
Yes.
and so right, we hear that,
Right.
that's great. So yeah, there's so many elements of this that touch on all the stuff that we talk about in business development coaching and all of the things that come up in our lawyer book builder program.
Right.
It is, events are a key part of it. Networking, building relationships,
Yeah.
this is super key.
They're always going to be needed. And I think I think the reason why I like events so much is that, I think I told you before we started recording, sometimes they can be, undervalued, seen as expensive parties, something that the firm is spending money on, and the ROI can be a little bit of a long tail, so there's not an immediate return maybe. But it really should be embedded as part of a business development strategy. And I feel lucky because I get to interact with our clients. I get to interact with our
Yeah.
attorneys. I get to see them physically. I get to work with every single part of our marketing team, because there's not a part of our marketing team that events doesn't touch. I'm utilizing our senior competitive intelligence manager and asking him to research the contacts that have RSVP'd. Yes, I'm
Nice.
working with our graphics team to do invitations and signage, and working with the BD team, like we said, to kind of formulate a strategy for the event, and talk about follow up. How do we maximize this event afterwards? So I feel lucky because I kind of get to interact with our clients, attorneys, but then every single aspect of marketing ties back to events too.
Right. And that follow up, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes.
That's really the key. There's so much. I'm glad to hear the way you are leading the development of these events has got to be helpful for the lawyers, because then, I mean, if it's an educational event, they need to
Right.
be prepped up and ready for it. But at previous firms, these major CLE conferences that
Right.
we organized took a lot of effort on the lawyer's part, and it should, particularly if they're presenting, content. But then frequently they were so relieved that the event was over that follow-up would just fall away, because they thought they were done. And it was like, no way.
Yes.
It's just beginning. Like you
Yes.
just teed up your shot. So how do you work with, is it then you're back with the BD people for that follow-up, or what are the next steps after you have a successful?
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I feel that way too. I'm like, oh, the planning and execution of the event is done. Now I can finally relax. But it's like, no. Like you said, the shot's teed up. Now we have to get everybody in line to make sure that we're taking advantage of it.
Right.
I don't think we're perfect. I think that follow-up is always something that can be better, both on the marketing and business development side, and of course on the attorney side. But I think it is just reminding them. We often host debrief meetings, and then I'll provide like a list of like actionable next steps. And most of them are low lift, like,
Mhm.
hey, send them a LinkedIn invitation to somebody that you
Right.
connected with. Can you send them an email and give specific recall of what you discussed during the event so that they know this is not, a spray and pray type of, blast from the attorney to everybody
Right.
that attended the event, but the attorney specifically recalls something that they talked about in the conversation. Is it lunch? Is it coffee? Is it making sure that they are signed up to receive alerts on something that they mentioned that they're struggling in their company with? So there's a lot of like low lift ways,
Mhm.
and marketing and business development can't do it all. There, a large part of that is on the attorney,
Mhm.
and it has to. We have to meet in the middle. We have to be able to rely on the attorney to kind of help us get there. But I think it's just reminding the attorney
Yeah.
and connecting the dots for them, saying, hey, it looks like you talked to this person at the event. Send them this email. Oh, and actually, did you know that this person knows this other attorney in, our Los Angeles office? So I think we kind of have to play the connector in the middle ground, but um, we have to be able to partner with the attorneys on that
Yeah,
effort too.
and they're the ones after all that are
Right,
developing the relationship.
right,
So it
right.
needs to be, some sort of personal aspect of it. And you and I were talking about how it used to be that the math was that, there were 7 touches that
Yeah,
needed to be made before, the next sort of major step would happen. And now it's so many
so many
more.
more.
And all of those low lift things that you talk about count.
Yes.
That those
Yeah.
those are things that in business development that we're
Right.
measuring, right? Like,
Right.
great, did you send the follow-up email? Great. How many follow-up emails did you send? Track that
Right.
number. And it makes them feel like, oh, good, I'm doing something. It's
Yes.
not too hard. We're all exhausted at the end of that because
Exactly.
there's been so much build up about the event. But now that it's over, like, great, don't work so hard, but still do this and then do this and then do this and then do this and measure those things
Right.
because that fuels that business development engine, that relationship development engine within the lawyers that helps them also understand that, like, it's not as hard as you're making it out to be. This isn't really, we're
Right.
not really asking for the
No.
moon here, you know?
It seems
Like,
so simple.
right, right, right. But it's hard. It's
But
hard.
for them,
So
yes, for
yeah,
them, that's not something that they, were taught a lot of
right,
times,
right.
especially in law school. We know that they weren't taught
Exactly.
this type of marketing and business development, relationship building. So it might seem simple to us, but like you said, getting
Right.
them to realize these small touches do add up.
Yeah.
Things do build, and events aren't the only aspect of that, but they're a critical aspect. And we
Right.
we can lay the foundation for the future. The house doesn't have to be built today.
Right. Right. And I like what you said earlier too about getting these are such great opportunities to get to understand the prospective
Right.
client better, and the more questions you have answered about who they are, how they operate, how their business operates, how decisions are made in their business, all of these questions that help inform the opportunity then
Right.
for the lawyer to go, hey, we met back then. Since then, I've learned this and that and the other thing. Do you need a lawyer to sit in on this planning session? No, I will do it.
Exactly.
I'll do it off the clock, but it seems like something
Yeah.
that comes up a lot. We deal with this a lot. I think I can add value there.
Right.
Then you don't discover any of those things if the event is done and you just go, great, can't wait to invite him again to another one. Like,
Exactly.
all of it happens in the middle of
Yes.
those things.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's the most important work to
Yeah.
help them, continue to maintain those relationships with folks that they meet at the events that sound like they're all so good. So that's just
Totally
great.
agree.
You and I have known each other for a decade,
Crazy.
which it still seems weird to me, but because we're both so young.
Yeah.
I'm just a kid. Um, but if a newer person in the marketing and BD world, like you were, back in the day when we met, came to you and said, "What's a piece of advice or what's some important thing that I should be thinking of?" What would you share with them?
Yeah, it seems crazy because when I met you and when I worked with you, that literally was my first job out of college. I was I
It's
was
wild.
figuring everything out, trying to make sense of a whole different industry than one I had been, taught was even an option. But then also just getting used to being a professional. But I feel like for legal marketing and business development professionals, I always live by be consistent. Do what you
Yes.
say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And one of the quotes that I always come back to is, I think, one from Aristotle, where it's, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit." So it's basically saying,
Yeah.
it seems like such a basic thing again, but the building blocks is, be consistent. Do those reps consistently and put in that time and effort consistently. And I think it can be really hard and almost neglected in our industry sometimes, because we all know that legal marketing and business development professionals have such huge workloads, and there can be times when it's chaotic and crazy, and you just feel like your, hair is on fire and you're flying by the seat of your pants, or we're adjusting to, so many different attorney personalities and the nuances of working with them, or, timelines are shifting and moving. But I think you got to do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. The attorneys expect that.
Right.
That's what their clients are expecting of them.
Hmm.
And I've had a lot of conversations recently where we're talking about how, one of the greatest strategies is for marketing and business development folks to mirror the good
Yes.
habits that the attorneys are going to be mirroring with their clients. Like, it just is that continuum, that
Right.
flow is it's what lawyers expect. It's how their clients expect them to operate. And it's how we should as well. You're absolutely right. And that consistency, the reps thing too, like, be consistent is a good way to provide good service, but it's
Yes.
also like that makes each next time easier.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I have a
Yep.
lot of like templates. I have a lot of checklists. I have
Yeah.
a lot of like schedule sending emails, things that I do repeatedly that might seem boring to somebody. I had somebody ask me once, like, you always send RSVPs reports the same way. You always, frame your emails that relating to this topic the same way. Like, why do you do that? And I'm like, because I have to be consistent. The
Right.
attorneys come to expect that from me, so they know exactly what I'm gonna be sending them and what type of information is gonna be in this email or this call or that call.
Right.
Um, but then it also, like, reserves my decision-making capacity for more important decisions. It allows me to be a little bit more creative, which is especially useful in events where I'm not wondering, "How am I gonna frame this RSVP report email?" or "How am I gonna send this contract back to the hotel?" I know exactly how I'm gonna do those things
Right.
because I've put in the reps. It's the other things that, inevitably fly off the handle in legal
Right.
marketing and in events that I have to reserve that kind of decision making. So I won't go as far as to say I'm like Steve Jobs wearing the same outfit every day, but but I try to, put in some consistent, things, tasks, templates, checklists, things that I do that, I know will make my life easier. And then I know that the attorneys will then in turn expect that from me.
Yeah.
And hopefully it takes, their decision, or it reserves their decision making too, because they don't have to wonder, oh, what's going to happen with this event? They know that on the morning of the event, I'm going to send an event information email that contains all this information every single time.
Right, right. And so you're not only really preserving your mental capacity
Right.
for handling the things that you need to handle that are either going to come up spontaneously or that really require a deep dive on creativity, but you're giving the lawyers something that they expect, which ultimately saves them a lot of time. Each time they get
Exactly.
this information in the same format, it's easier for them to ingest it and make use of it, rather
Right.
than it's like, oh, this is coming to me in a different way, and I don't know how to make sense of this. Like,
Right, right, and if something
it's
is
so
different in the
helpful.
content, then they know, "Oh, okay," I'll highlight or I'll bold it, and they'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah,
whoa, okay,
yeah.
this is something different than what she normally sends, I should probably pay attention."
Such a great approach. Super,
And I
super
feel
good
like,
approach.
like you said it already, attorneys are that's the way they're expected to work. They're also
Sure.
notoriously skeptical and, can easily point out they're trained to point
It's
out
their job.
mistakes, to review,
Right.
a lot of content and see what's different about it. So we have to put in the reps as legal marketing and business development professionals to make sure that we're dependable. They don't have to worry. And I think that builds the relationship, builds trust. And then once they trust, hey, I think she knows what she's doing. I trust her. I've never, had to worry about, the type of work she's doing or who she is as a professional. Then I have the opportunity to have a bigger impact in my firm because I have
Right.
that baseline relationship
Right.
with the attorneys.
Right. Oh, it's great. It's a great approach.
Mhm.
It's a great approach. Oh, it's so good to see you.
I
It's
know.
fun to catch up and talk about, what's happened since 10 years
Yes,
ago. And now that you have an office here,
I
maybe
know.
we can see each other the next time you're in town.
Agreed.
Be
Totally
fun to
agree.
grab a coffee or something. So we'll have
Yes.
to make that happen.
The ultimate goal is to like be the opposite of a snowbird and just stay up in Minneapolis the whole summer.
Oh man. Yep. Yep. Maybe.
Yeah, fingers
Oh,
crossed.
yep. Yep. Well, it's great to see you. It was fun to catch up, but I love to hear
Yeah,
about what you're doing and yeah, it's just I can't believe that I guess I forgot that was your first job out of college. Like
right?
that's great. That's great.
I can't believe it. That it seems crazy to me. I still remember you asking me during the interview process, why do you want to work here? And I was like, "Oh, I really like, the fact that Fish is, as you know, an iconic firm for inventors, has such like a storied history of
Yeah.
representing, some of the most famous patent holders." And you're like, "Well, yeah, but you do know like we're not doing that necessarily day to day. Like, are you going to be okay with it?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready."
That's funny. Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you when you're in town
Yeah,
sometime in the near future. Thanks again for doing this. I appreciate it. This was
of
a great
course.
conversation and I think super helpful for a lot of people. And I'm glad, this podcast isn't just for people who are focused on BD. You're the BD catalyst, right? Like I'm trying to
Right.
have conversations like this with as many people as I can who are not directly, but kind of directly
Exactly.
supporting this BD. Like the work you do is all BD. So thanks for being a good catalyst in your firm. I'm sure they appreciate you too.
Thank you for having me.
The BD Catalyst, a podcast for law firm business development and marketing changemakers, is brought to you by Lawyer Book Builder and BDBuddy.ai, technology designed to help law firms create an exceptional culture of business development. Our host is Christo Sween, and our editor is Melanie Cristostomo. The BD Catalyst is a production of the David Freeman Consulting Group. Learn more at davidfreemanconsulting.com.